Today, let's talk about an acronym you're probably hearing a lot more about: BRICS. Now, this is way more than just a club of emerging economies. It's a group that's looking at the way the world works, a world they feel has been run by the West for way too long and saying, we can do this differently. They aren't just asking for a seat at the table, they're actually building a whole new one. And that, of course, raises this huge question. For decades, the global economy has pretty much danced to a Western tune. So, with the rise of BRICS, are we watching that era of dominance come to a close? It's a big deal, so let's dive in and break down what this bloc is, what it really wants, and, well, whether it has the muscle to actually redraw the map of global power. First off, just to get a sense of the scale we're talking about, you've got to look at the population numbers. The BRICS nations are home to over 40% of all the people on Earth. Just let that sink in for a second. Almost half of humanity. We're talking about a consumer market and a workforce of absolutely colossal size, all under one banner. This is no small club. It is a demographic giant. Okay, so where did this powerhouse even come from? It's a pretty fascinating story, actually, because BRICS wasn't born out of some high-stakes political meeting. Nope, it started as an idea in the mind of an economist. Yeah, back in 2001, the term BRIC was basically just catchy Wall Street jargon. It was a handy acronym for these really promising emerging markets: Brazil, Russia, India, and China. But then the idea took on a life of its own. By 2009, these countries decided to hold their first formal summit, turning that economic label into a real political force. A year later, they invited South Africa to join, and that's when the S was added, and the BRICS we know today was officially born. And each of these 5 founding members brings something totally unique to the table. You've got Brazil, the economic engine of Latin America. Russia, an energy superpower with immense resources. India, a rising tech and manufacturing giant with 1 billion-plus consumers. China, of course, the world's factory and the second largest economy on the planet. And then there's South Africa, a crucial gateway to the entire African continent. It's a really powerful mix. But here's the thing. This group isn't just about helping each other grow their economies. Their ambition is so much bigger than that. What they really want to do is rewrite the rules of the entire global game. Rules they'd argue have been written by and for the West for far too long. You could boil their main goal down to one word: counterbalance. See, they want to move away from what's called a unipolar world, where one country basically holds all the cards, to a multipolar one with many different centers of power. And their main targets? Well, they're the pillars of the current financial system, institutions like the IMF and the World Bank. And they are not just talking about it. They're actively building their own system. To compete with the IMF and the World Bank, they've created their own versions: the Contingent Reserve Arrangement and the New Development Bank. These institutions are already funding massive projects, but on their own terms. And maybe the biggest move of all, they're pushing hard to trade with each other in their own local currencies. That is a direct shot at the dominance of the US dollar, which has been the foundation of global finance since World War II. Okay, so for all its grand ambitions, the BRICS bloc isn't exactly one big happy family. If you look just beneath the surface, you'll find some really deep fractures, frictions that could seriously threaten the whole project. And right at the heart of it all is a massive political divide. I mean, on one side, you have the state-controlled authoritarian systems of China and Russia, and on the other, you have democracies like India, Brazil, and South Africa. And we're not just talking about minor policy disagreements here. These are fundamental clashes in values about everything from human rights to freedom of the press. And the cracks? Well, they run even deeper. You've got serious, sometimes even violent border tensions between 2 of the biggest members, China and India. Then there's the elephant in the room. China's economy is just so massive, it makes some of the other members wonder if this is really a partnership of equals or if they're just playing a supporting role for Beijing. And here's a crucial point. Unlike an alliance like NATO, BRICS has no unified military pact. They might be economic partners, but they are not necessarily security allies. So you hear about all these internal problems, and you might be wondering, does BRICS even matter then? Well, despite all the divisions, its real-world impact is absolutely undeniable. So let's look at the future and how BRICS is already shaping global power today. The numbers really do speak for themselves. Forget population for a second. The BRICS nations now make up a staggering 25% of global GDP. To put that another way, 1 out of every $4 of value created on the entire planet happens inside this bloc. Their collective economic weight is it's too big to ignore. And they are not stopping there. One of the bloc's key strategies for growing its influence is expansion, something people are calling BRICS Plus. The idea is simple: bring even more countries from the global south into the fold. And believe me, there's a growing line of nations pretty eager to join. You have major regional powers, countries like Argentina, Egypt, Indonesia, Turkey, all expressing serious interest. This just goes to show you that the BRICS message, this promise of an alternative to the Western-led system, is really hitting home for a lot of nations who feel they've been left out of the conversation. And all of this brings us right to this central paradox of BRICS. It is, without a doubt, a huge force that's shifting global power. But at the exact same time, its future path is super complex and, frankly, uncertain. The bloc is both incredibly powerful and, you could argue, potentially fragile. Which leaves us with this final, massive question to think about. As BRICS keeps challenging the old way of doing things, is its rise going to lead to a more balanced, multipolar world with more voices having a say? Or is it just going to create deeper divisions, splitting the globe into two competing rival camps? The answer to that question is probably going to define the rest of the 21st century.